Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Taylor. I am the Hormone Doctor and the Spiritual MD. And I'm so glad you joined me here this Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday in February of 2026. So we can get a brand new start on everything. This is a new year. It's a new day. So it's a new way to live, and it's a new way to think. And the reason why I said it's a new way to think, because I have to look back and say, how have I evolved and adapted, over this 30-year career? So, I started out as an OBGYN, and somehow, some way, I read a book called Thinking for a Change, and it's by John Maxwell. And I became a disciple of John Maxwell. He's an excellent speaker. I actually took his course. I'm a certified John Maxwell speaker. So I've read all of his books, but it started from that book called Thinking for a Change. And it made me start thinking differently about what I do, about being an OBGYN, about being, a doctor in general. And it kind of took me away from thinking like a conventional doctor into thinking like a functional medicine doctor. And what I have determined is that what I'm really trying to get you guys to do is to think differently. Because once you start thinking differently, you can be independent. You don't need me. You don't need a doctor. Because you are thinking independently. And it's all about changing the way you think. And so today we're going to talk about changing how you think about stress and how you think about disease. Because in conventional medicine, we wait till the conventional lab values show us that you have a disease. But what goes on? Because, the day you get diagnosed with diabetes or PCOS or whatever, it wasn't like you were 100% normal the day before and then all of a sudden you have a disease. No. It doesn't happen like that. It is a process. And what you want to do is you want to interrupt that process. So if you can understand the basic physiology, why you get diseases, you can look upstream. Because I'm telling you, by the time you get fibroids and by the time you get any kind of condition, a lot of stuff has happened upstream. So we want to always look upstream. We wrote 2 books. One was Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? Because we were worried about downstream hormones and fibroids, because I'm an OBGYN. But about 2 or 3 years later, we figured out that wasn't the answer. We wrote the book called The Stress Connection, because it really didn't connect until we understood stress. So, and then I told you, I read a study that said 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress-related complaints or disorders. So if I am an expert on stress, and if you're an expert on stress, you will know the root cause of 75 to 90% of the reasons why you go to the doctor. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how are we going to think differently about the diseases or the symptoms that we have, and we're going to always be looking upstream. All right. So let's start with the slides, Rebel. All right. Let me see. Can you make those bigger so I can see them? All right. Great. Thank you. All right. So this is what I want you to understand. The body wants to live even though you keep trying to kill it. Okay. It is always about survival. So let me tell you, basically, here's what the Ageless Blueprint is. It is all about how can your body survive and how can it adapt, even when you do things that go against it. Because the human body is not a machine that breaks randomly. It is a biological economy that allocates energy based on perceived return on investment. So it is always looking at, am I saving up? Am I resting and digesting, waiting to be able to react to a stress? And you got to understand in nature, they just have acute stressors, okay? They don't have stress for long periods of time. And that's what I've learned by going on safaris. So it's saying, do I allocate energy and saving up energy and protecting myself and resting, digesting, making sure everything is working fine. So when a stress does come, I can react to it or I can respond to it and not just react. Or am I in survival mode where I just have to react? I don't have time to think. I don't have time to eat and digest. I don't have time to worry about my immune system causing a problem, 2 years from now, that I might have cancer 2 years from now. I've got to allocate this energy right here, right now. So what we want to look at is that, how is your body allocating energy? And I'm going to tell you, if you start thinking like that, you're going to recognize all of these issues that you have might all be coming from that stress or those multiple stressors. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So here's how this works. Okay. You cannot fund a home renovation during a war. So you can't be repairing yourselves. So when you're at war, you got things coming at you. You have to dodge things. You have to react quickly. You don't have time to rebuild and restore and to take care of all the things that were damaged. So the body operates on a strictly finite energy budget. Okay. I tell people you only have so much blood, you only have so much oxygen. It can only, you can't make more all of a sudden. So you have to figure out, where does your energy go? So you cannot simultaneously fund the long-term health projects and immediate defense mechanisms at full capacity. So when the cost of defense rises, the budget for maintenance is slashed. So wherever you interpret a stress, okay, and we're going to talk about what stressors are. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an emotional stress or a physical stress. It can be all, or it can be all of those combined. So whenever your body sees stress, it is going to go into the fight or flight system, because that's all it knows. So let's go to the next slide and I'll show you. All right. So there is a master switch. Okay. It does not distinguish lions from emails. So this is what I'm talking about, is that you go into that survival mode, you use your primitive brain. So your brain doesn't know the difference between a lion or a virus. That's what your body is made to detect. Okay. We are a part of nature. Okay. And all of nature, they have to defend themselves against predators. Okay. And our predators are our environment, what we think, what we feel, what we're exposed to, the viruses, everything is out there. All of nature has predators. We know COVID, that's a predator. And that was a stressor, and we needed to be able to have enough energy stored up to fight off COVID. And that's why these diseases, they tend to affect the people who are most vulnerable. It was children and it was older people, because they did not have enough stored up energy to fight that off. And what you got to understand is that we have all kinds of emotional threats that are trying to turn on this alarm system. Okay. So all the news, our family, all of these things, these external things are trying to turn that switch on. And the key is, can you keep that switch off even though the external environment is trying to turn it on? That is the key. Can you keep yourself calm even though everything outside of you is trying to turn on that switch? And you can control it. Okay. But one, you would like to eliminate some of those inputs. Okay. So I don't look at the news anymore. Okay. Because anything you look at on the news is trying to turn that switch on. And once you turn that switch on, then this whole process starts. And we're going to talk about that process. So you have to understand your body does not know the difference. And see, here's what you have to understand is that one person can see one experience as stressful and another person can see it as joy and excitement. So it's all about how you interpret it. What do you think about it? I'll tell you, we climbed this 10,000-foot mountain to see these gorillas. Now, I will tell you, if I had known what it was going to take, my fight or flight system would have come on and would have tried to protect me and told me not to do it. I just didn't know. Okay. So, but anyway, anyway, it's all how you perceive it. I talk about, I don't like roller coasters. So I perceive roller coasters, my sympathetic nervous system turns on. Okay. I have fight or flight. I don't want to do it. I get nervous. I get sweaty. Now, my kids, they love it. They interpret it as being joyful and excitement. So it's all about how you think about things. Okay. It's about how you think and how you perceive it. Because that reptilian brain, the only way it knows what's happening is by what you think and how you interpret what you see and what you hear and what you feel. And so all of that is interpreted, whether it's a stress or whether it's something for you to be happy about and for you to rest and enjoy. All right. So next slide. All right. Now, when you interpret something as being a stress, it is declaring martial law on your physiology. Your body thinks you have to fight or flight. So it sends everything to the muscles. So the trigger is this thing called a hypothalamus gland that's in your brain. It's above the reptilian brain, okay? And so what it does when it sees a stress, it turns on adrenaline, okay? So we all know how adrenaline makes us feel. It makes us feel anxious and nervous, and we can't think straight because we have all of this stuff going on. And so then you get this massive rerouting of energy and resources. It's stripped down. It says, forget everything. We got to run or fight now. It doesn't matter that you're sitting there with your sick child or in the ICU or, the NICU or whatever, or you're dealing with your kid having problems. It doesn't matter. It thinks that, hey, we got to run or fight. So it sends everything to the muscles. And so everything else gets neglected. All right. So you get this massive redistribution of energy. And it says, forget about rest and digest. We have to go toward fight or flight. So stress isn't just a feeling in your head. It is a physiological override switch that reroutes your blood flow and metabolism. All right. So your body just says, forget it. We've got to get out of this situation. All right. So here's number one. It said, hey, we have to start budget cutting. We're spending too much energy in other places. So we have to cut some services. So number one, the reproductive system uses up a lot of energy. So reproduction is one of the most expensive biological processes a body can undertake in a wartime economy. Pregnancy is a high-risk liability. So you have to understand, hey, your body is saying, it's two things. It's saying, look, you don't need to get pregnant right now. So it stops ovulation. Okay. So it says, hey, it's not a time to get pregnant. We've got to stop ovulation. Well, you know what happens when you stop ovulation? Then you don't make progesterone, right? When you don't make progesterone, you have all of these issues because estrogen makes things grow. Progesterone helps things to stop growing and to develop normally. All right. So the brain blocks the signal path to the ovaries and the testes. Production of expensive hormones like progesterone and testosterone is suspended to conserve liquidity. So it stops testosterone in a man because it says you don't have enough energy to start trying to pursue women and have sex. It takes up too much energy. So I'm going to lower your testosterone so that your libido goes down. All right. And then in women, it stops ovulation. And that's why you have PCOS and all of these issues, because PCOS means you have a lot of cysts that are trying to ovulate, but the stress says don't do it. And so now you have all of this estrogen, you're estrogen dominant, you're storing fat, things are growing that you don't want to grow, like endometriosis and fibroids and irregular bleeding because the lining in your uterus is growing too much. And then your emotions get out of control because progesterone also slows down your emotions. It calms you so you can sleep. But it all came from stress. And again, we're all under stress. Okay, kids are under stress from school. They're under stress from parents, trying to push them. And so we are under stress our whole life. We're under stress trying to get pregnant, and the stress of trying to get pregnant causes you not to get pregnant. And that's why a lot of people, they end up having a baby after they stop doing the infertility workup, because the infertility workup is so stressful. So that's why I'm saying stress is that master switch. So we have to try and keep that switch off, even though all these external circumstances are trying to turn the switch on. All right. So then there's another budget cut. I will tell you, this is probably the hardest concept I have had to try and get over to doctors and to patients about thyroid function. Okay. This is it. We have been taught that we look at the TSH. Okay, so let me tell you what the TSH is. It's thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, so what thyroid stimulating hormone? It comes from the brain. All right, and what the brain does, it is looking to see if you have enough of this thing called T4. So you see the T4 right there. If there's enough T4, it says the TSH says everything is fine. So the TSH goes up when it doesn't see enough of that T4, and it tells your thyroid, hey, I need some more T4. All right. So let me just show you here. T4 can be normal, but when stress increases, thyroid can go one of two ways. All right. When you are under stress, your body says, we don't want you to expend any unnecessary energy. So we don't want the thyroid to work. We want it to start storing energy because we may need it another day. So what it does is it makes you convert this T4 into reverse T3 instead of T3. So let me go back. All right. So T4 doesn't do anything. T3 is the active form of the hormone. And how T3 works is thyroid hormone has 4 iodines. You have to take off one of the iodines to make it the active one. And if you take off the other one, it's the inactive one. When you're under stress, you make more of the inactive one. So your TSH and your T4 can be normal, but the active form of the hormone is low. All right. So if you have been told you don't have hypothyroidism because your TSH is okay, you really need to have your doctor look at your free T3. All right. Because this does two things. Stress causes you not to make the active form of the hormone. So it's more likely you're going to gain weight or whatever. And when you're under stress, the signal, the TSH, that should go up can't go up because stress is keeping it suppressed. So if your doctor is only looking for the TSH in order to say if you have hypothyroidism, I'm sorry. I turn my phone off, but then it comes through my computer. Then they're not looking at the whole picture. Okay. So I just want you to understand TSH is not the only thing that you need to look at, but it's all disrupted because of stress. That just throws your whole thyroid system off. So if all of a sudden at age 40 or 45, somebody told you had hypothyroidism, it's probably due to the accumulation of stress that is disrupting the system. All right. So that's just something I want you to keep in your back pocket, and just to show you how stress really just disrupts almost every system. And that's why we wrote the book called The Stress Connection. All right. So let's go to the next one. Now, I think it's this one. All right. So fatigue and weight gain are often misdiagnosed as failures in the context of survival budgeting. They are highly successful adaptations. Your body is actively slowing you down to ensure you don't run out of fuel before the threat passes. So this is what I want to say. Almost in nature, almost all species, they rest and digest most of the time, and then they are ready for any kind of stress or any kind of predator that comes their way. So when we went to see these gorillas, all they do is rest and digest. The elephants, all they're thinking about is eating and drinking and resting. But when a predator comes, they are ready to attack. All right. So that's just how things work. You just think it's winter. Our plants and stuff, they're resting, they're gathering up what they need in order to bloom in the spring. And we're anxiously awaiting that. But the human species, which is a part of nature, we are the only species that thinks that resting is laziness, that we think it's a bad thing, that we think that we gotta constantly be performing and doing things and being productive all the time. And if you sleep too much, if you go on a vacation, then you got to come back quickly and catch up on your work. And we wonder why our body breaks down because we're shutting off all of our systems that help us stay alive. And that's why I say our body wants to live even though we try to kill it. So we need to start to work with our body and not fight against it. If you need to rest, you need to rest, and don't look at it as something that is lazy, or that you're not doing what you're supposed to do. All right. So we need to be able to understand that rest and preparation and allowing our body to recover is not a bad thing. Is that we have to allow our body to be able to withstand all of these things that are coming at us. Now, here's another place that gets cut: your digestive system. Okay, because your body is saying it. The reason why you get sleepy after you eat is because it takes so much energy to digest your food. You have to have all these enzymes and acid, and you have this peristalsis where your gut is constantly grinding up food. And so it says we don't have time to be doing that right now. We have to use our stored up energy. We have to use the energy that we've already saved up and that we've stored in the fat. And here's the problem: you're not really using up that energy because you're sitting there worried about something. You're not running or fighting. So that glucose that should be going to the muscle, it says, hey, she's not going anywhere. So we'll just store it in fat. So that's part of our issues with our weight problems, okay? Because we're always under stress. We eat under stress. We go to fast food restaurants and we're eating in the car while we're driving. And so we don't even give our stomachs a chance to digest the food. Now, here's the other problem. So you got to believe that the blood is going to the gut to try and pick up nutrients, but there's also blood going to the gut to keep it healthy, right? That's the real problem. So if you don't get enough nutrients back to the gut, because the lining of the gut turns over every 7 days. Every 7 days, you have to have a new gut lining. So you have to have a lot of nutrients in order to do that. All right. So if you don't, what happens is your gut doesn't get repaired. Your gut is your protection against all of the things that you put in your mouth that you don't want to go in your body. All of the preservatives and all of the different when you're eating meat, is a bacteria or whatever that might be in the meat. So all of that has to be filtered out through your gut. But if you are not getting enough nutrients to the gut because you didn't absorb enough nutrients, now your gut is leaky. So that's where leaky gut comes from, is that you had a stress response. All of the blood went away from the gut. You didn't get any nutrients, and now there's no nutrients going back to the gut. So now the gut lining can't repair itself. All right. The other place where your cells turn over a lot is in your hair and your nails. So if your hair isn't growing and your nails aren't growing, a lot of times that means that your gut is not properly bringing in the nutrients to help that to happen. Now, let me tell you another thing. Okay. When your gut is leaky, a lot of times, so your gut should be your detoxification place, your gut and your kidneys. Now, your third place where you detoxify yourself is your skin. So if your gut is not working well, your body will try and get rid of the toxins through your skin. So that's where a lot of skin issues. I always say, if you have a skin issue, the first place you got to look is your gut. And if your gut is a problem, the next place you got to look at is your stress, your cortisol system. All right. So we've got 3 budget cuts. We budget cut the thyroid, we budget cut the reproductive system, and we budget cut the digestive system. And I will tell you that most of the time, the issues that patients come in with have these three things in common, okay, is that they have some kind of reproductive, either they have low libido or erectile dysfunction, or they have, they're having irregular periods or fibroids or whatever. So just think. And then thyroid. Everybody thinks that thyroid is a problem. I got a weight gain. It's a thyroid problem. No, we have to keep looking upstream. It could be a stress problem that's causing all of this. All right. So now let's go to the next one. Now here's the next place where you have to cut is your brain. Your brain is using 20% of all of the energy. Your brain and your reproductive system is using most of the energy. All right. So in a crisis, speed saves lives. So complex analysis is too slow. The brain prioritizes reaction over reason. That's why when you get in an argument and you start, the adrenaline starts flowing, all you can do is react. You don't act reasonably. That's why the next day you think about it and you start your cognitive function comes back and you say, oh my God, why did I say that? What were we even fighting about? So that's why when you're in an argument, I had to learn that the hard way. I've been married for 40 years, is that you can't let your body go into that reaction stage, especially if you're talking to someone you love and you cherish their relationship. You have to break that reaction. And what I've learned is that when you think you should say something, be quiet. Okay. Just be quiet. Okay. That is a reaction. Give yourself enough time to let your front part of your brain get back online. And the other thing is, if you are a high performer, that's what we talked about last week, is that when you're under stress, this is what I learned as being a doctor and being a surgeon. And this is what someone told me early on in my career. He said, you will be a good doctor if you can stay calm in chaos. And I remember that. And I will tell you, that's how I became chief resident in OBGYN at Emory, is that if there was a C-section or whatever, I tried to make sure that I was the calm one. And it got me through my residency, and it's really got me through my career. Is, can I remain calm when chaos is all around me? Now, I will tell you, probably have done that better professionally than personally. And that's what I'm trying to do now, is to make sure I do that personally. And that's what meditation, doing all these things, is to make sure that I can carry that from my professional life. That's one good thing that I learned in my professional life, and try and bring it into my personal life. So the loss of executive function and internal direction goes away, as activation of herd instinct. And when you're not sure, when you can't think for yourself, that's an easy way to get manipulated, okay? Because you are reacting. And if someone can come in and calm you and help you to get over that fear, whether it's true or not, you begin to follow it, because you cannot make these independent decisions, because the front part of your brain, the one that uses the most energy, it's been shut off because it doesn't have enough energy to keep it going. All right. So, hey, it's almost break time. I know I've been talking a lot, but I want you to see that, hey, look, if we can fix that number one thing, if we can fix that stress, okay, all right, if we can fix that, all of this stuff downstream could get a lot better. But if we only focus on fixing the thyroid, fixing the reproductive system, fixing the gut, those are all later on. But first, we got to turn off the switch. Then we can start to fix the things downstream. All right. So that's the key. Can we turn off the switch? Then can we do the things we need to do? I'm actually formulating a program where I can help people, where I will have a 90-day program where we can talk about that, where we can turn off the switch. And we'll talk about this at the end. This is what we're going to talk about after the break. But I'm going to get through this and talk about how I can help you to turn off that switch and get your life back in order. All right, let's go to the break.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the ageless blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk 4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right, so we are back here. We're talking about how does your body try to keep you alive even though you keep trying to kill it. Okay, it is. So all of these conditions that you have, I want you to see your body is not trying to do something bad to you. It's really trying to tell you something. It's really trying to give you a signal that, hey, look, something is going on. I'm interpreting whatever is going on as a stress. And this is why you're having these symptoms. So you want to look at these as signals, and you want to look back and talk about where did this come from? All right. Now here's the problem is that you need to know, are you in that situation? Okay. Is cortisol an issue? And so if you look at the blood and you're trying to look for these problems, you're going to have a problem. Now, one thing you can't look for in the blood is thyroid, okay, because it is water soluble. So looking at TSH and T3 and all that, it's fine in the blood. Now, when you're talking about fat soluble hormones like cortisol, cortisol is is fat soluble. So it has to be carried around in a water soluble truck. All right. But the key is how many packages are getting delivered to your tissues. That's the issue. And so that's where you have to look at saliva. And that's the missing link. And that is the entry point. You have to, once you see what stress is doing to you, it's very difficult to unsee it. And I'm going to show you what stress is doing. And this is what I show my patients. And once they see it, it's very hard to unsee it. But what it does, it makes sense out of everything that's happening to you. And that's what I'm saying, is that if I can get you thinking for a change, is thinking that, hey, look, this all comes from my body reacting to some of the things that I'm interpreting as stress. And what can I do to turn that switch off? And that's what we're going to get to at the end. All right. So standard lab test measures what is in the trucks, not what is being delivered to the house. The body fights to maintain stable blood levels to stay alive, masking the fact that the actual tissue levels may be low. All right. Now, I just want to show you, this is what these are cortisol patterns. Now, this is what's supposed to happen. In the green, you should have a steady flow of energy to handle all of these issues. To be able to handle your reproductive system, your thyroid system, your gut. You should have enough energy where, hey, look, I can allocate everything. I can be ready for a fight or flight. I can do all this. Now, that's when you're in the green, because this is the steady flow of energy. You should wake up. So I want you to see this green level. I think you can't see my cursor. You should wake up and have a steady flow of energy. The most should be in the morning. And then it should kind of go down in the midday. You eat lunch, you get a little bit more energy. And then you go to the end of the day. You get tired, you go to sleep, you wake, you recover during sleep, during your rest and digest period. And then you come around and you do it all over again. And that's how it's supposed to work. And what you need to understand is that, hey, look, that is how nature works. This really runs by your day-night cycle. Okay, I'll tell you that most cultures that aren't as advanced as we are, but they also aren't as sick as we are, they go by the circadian rhythm. They are active during the daylight and they sleep when it's night. Okay, and in the winter, they sleep more. In the summer, they sleep less because they are building up their energy for the summertime, when it's time to plant and eat and all these things. All right. So that is what's supposed to happen. But look, these are 9 out of the 10 tests I've done. You see that none of them are in the green. So they just needed that green amount to get through, to distribute all the energy like they're supposed to. Now they don't even have that much. Even so, what happened is that during their life, they were allocating things inefficiently. And so now they're 30, 40, 50 years old, and that has run out. And if you don't resupply your body with what it needs, all of the natural nutrients and all of the sleep and energy that it needs, it's going to run out. We call it adrenal fatigue. And this is what we have to correct. We have to identify that there is a problem, and it is primarily a stress problem. That's what this is. And then we have to try and go through the steps to repair this. And that's what we're going to talk about at the very end. But I want you to see that, and this is the way to see it. This is what I'm talking about. Why a blood test is not going to show you this. It's not, because nobody's going to come in 4 times during the day. This is when you first wake up. The next one is around noon. The third one is around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. And the other one is right before you go to bed, so that we can see this circadian rhythm. This is your natural rhythm that you're supposed to be in. And you see how most people have an abnormal rhythm. And it's primarily, you weren't born with an abnormal rhythm. If you look at babies and kids, they follow this. When they get tired, they sleep. And when they wake up, man, they are full of energy. They know how to rest and digest. But our culture, what it does, it disrupts that natural flow of energy. You need to look at babies, look at children, and see how deeply they sleep. You could have a marching band come through the room when a baby is asleep, and it won't wake them up, because that is the natural flow of energy. And after they eat, what do? They sleep. They rest and they digest. They rest and digest. But we tell them, hey, look, you got to stay up late and get an A on your kindergarten homework. Okay, and we disrupt that pattern. Hey, I've been talking a lot, Rebel. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So
we have twisted the system so bad, it's not working anymore.
Yeah. And so we have gone against nature. And, I will tell you, we talk about fight or flight. And I also want to talk about what we say to ourselves. This is one of my pet peeves. You hear people say, we lost our fight against cancer, or I'm fighting this battle. Just those words are signals to ourselves. Okay. So you really don't want to fight cancer. You really don't want to fight your fibroids. You really want to figure out, okay, where did this all start? Okay. What situation did I not deal with like I should have? Or what forces are coming to me that's turning on this switch? So that's the change in thinking that I want you to have, is that this is a signal telling me that something upstream is not right. And we want to keep peeling back those layers of the onion until we really get back. And see, once you get to the root of it, man, instead of taking all these pills for, birth control pills, then taking your thyroid medicine, then taking your antidepressant, you get down to that first domino. And if you can pick that domino back up, all the other dominoes start to stand up also. All right. Now, so your symptoms are not errors. They are adaptations. Okay. Your body, the symptom that you're having is because it reallocated its energy somewhere else, and it neglected what it should have been controlling, and it let it get out of hand. All right. So your broken thyroid is energy conservation. All right. It's storing up fat, thinking that, hey, sooner or later she's going to run a fight. I know she didn't run a fight today, but sooner or later, because this stress signal still stays on. So infertility and low libido, you stop ovulation, you stop progesterone, you got PCOS, perimenopause, irregular bleeding, endometriosis. All of that is because the stress signal can be turned on. And like I said, it's not that you don't even realize it's a stressor. You don't realize that all of this news and all of this stuff coming in, your body is interpreting it as stress. And so a lot of your issues, and I'll tell you that, I told you the two things that use up the most energy is reproduction and your brain. All right. Well, this is what I'll tell you. Women come in because of foggy thinking, irregular bleeding, all of that stuff. So men come in due to the lack of energy in the other system, the reproductive system. I'd say the only thing that a man thinks is an emergency is erectile dysfunction. That is the only thing that they will come in. So so those two areas that use up the most energy, that's a lot of times what you notice first. The irregular bleeding, the erectile dysfunction, the man has low libido, whatever. All right. Now, brain fog, I told you that's the other, those are the two systems, this infertility and brain fog. And so these symptoms are the result of resources being successfully withdrawn from one department to fund another. The body is doing exactly what it should do to survive the war it believes it's fighting. So we got to stop saying we're fighting. I'm fighting this diabetes. I'm fighting my blood pressure. I'm fighting this weight. No. What is this weight gain telling me? This is what I'll tell you. You know, I tell you, I do weight loss in my office. And when I have a person who's stalling on their weight loss or GLP-1s or whatever, I'm like, okay, we've got a problem. It's upstream. It's not just your weight, it's upstream. So I did that on one patient who was stalling out, and I do it on all. And once you fix the upstream, the GLPs work, everything works. Again, that's why we wrote the stress connection second, because we figured out if we keep dealing with downstream, it doesn't really fix the problem. All right. So let me see, I got a little bit of time. So ending the war to restore the economy. So the strategy is to look upstream. Treating the downstream organ, the thyroid, the gut, the hormones is useless if the body is still in wartime mode. So we got to get out of that wartime mode. So the solution is signal safety. We must stop treating the smoke and start turning off the fire alarm. When the body feels safe, the budget for health is automatically restored. So we've got to get out of that. So this is what I've been doing in the office for 20 years. And I've been trying to figure out, this is why I'm doing the podcast. This is why I'm doing all this. How can I offer this to more people? And so I'm telling you, this is the issue. We got to stop looking at the hormones. I'm not saying stop looking at it, but we want to look at that, but then we always want to look a little bit further. So this is how you restore this. And this is how I've been talking about it forever. And this is how I now put it into a program that I'm about to launch. All right. So number one, if at all possible, get rid of the stress. This is what we call a stress reset. Get rid of the stress. Okay. Whether it's a job, a relationship, or whatever, that is always the best solution. All right. Is get rid of the stress. But here's the thing. Sometimes you don't realize what the stress is. So the first thing we do is do that saliva cortisol test. Is this a stress situation? And I will tell you, 75 to 90% of the time, that cortisol test is going to come back abnormal if you come to see me, because I know you've gotten one of those downstream symptoms, and that's why you're coming to me. All right. So first, we want to do that test, and then if you've gotten rid of all of the stresses you can get rid of, but there's some you can't get rid of. All right. You know, a sick child, parents that you're taking care of, a job you cannot leave because you need it to survive for right now. Then you have to change how you respond to the stress. You have to look at situations differently, because remember, your brain is only interpreting the sensory signals that it's getting, also the feeling, the feeling that you're getting. All right. So you have to change how you respond to that stress. And there's different ways to do that through meditation. You can use all of these gadgets like the Muse band. There's another gadget. There's another thing called heart rate variability. These are all things you can see moment by moment how stress is affecting you, and how certain things that you do to try and relieve stress, is it actually working? Is it making my cortisol go down? Is it helping me to have alpha waves in my brain on the Muse band? Is it allowing my heart rate variability? And we're going to talk a lot about heart rate variability, because now I have an app that does what I wanted to do. We'll talk about heart rate variability. So these are all the things how you can change how you respond to the stress. So in this program, we're going to try and identify the stressors, and the stresses you can't get rid of, we're going to try and help you change how you respond to the stress. Then the third part of the program is we have to repair the damage caused by the stress. If you have a leaky gut, we need to identify that and we need to repair it. If you have thyroid issues, we need to give you support so you can start converting that T4 to free T3 and not reverse T3. And you need zinc and selenium for that. All right. And you also need progesterone. All right. Because progesterone, estrogen blocks thyroid hormone. Progesterone makes thyroid hormone work better. So we want to find out, we want to repair all of the damage caused by the stress. If you have brain issues, we want you to get amino acids so you can make neurotransmitters so your brain can work again. We fix your hormones so that your brain will calm down. We talk about meditation. All of those things is so that we can restore and repair the damage caused by the stress. Now, here's the other key. We want to prepare you for future stress because wherever you are now in your stress journey, this is not the end of it. You're going to have more stress, and we don't want you to get back in the hole that you just climbed out of. So we talk about how you can make lifestyle changes so that you don't get to that point, and how you can monitor yourself through through this technology, your Apple Watch and Wellator, all of these different, how you can monitor yourself to make sure you see those signs early and you make quick changes. You don't wait until it gets to the point where you have a demonstrable disease. You want to see those changes early. And we're going to talk, I'll show you some gadgets that I use to monitor myself. And again, I try not to ever advise you to do anything that I haven't done myself. So I've gotten all kinds of gadgets. I got gadgets all around here just trying to figure out which ones are useful or not. And I think I figured that out. And so this is what I've really been developing over this year. And to tell you the truth, I've just been flying by the seat of my pants for the first year because I just wanted to get something out there. I just wanted to start talking about it. I just wanted to start raising awareness about looking at disease differently. And so now I've finally crystallized it. And it's really what I've been doing for 20 years in my office. And now I know that I have figured out a way that I can at least start introducing it to a wider audience. And I can do it without necessarily having to come to see me here in Atlanta. But we will also have options where if you did want to come and really have a total stress, discovery, appointment, then we can do that also. So I'm excited about that. I'm building it. I'm preparing it. I'm going to launch it soon. Hopefully I can even talk about it more next Wednesday. But this is what I've been trying to do. And it's been trying to get people to think for a change, think for themselves, have enough baseline knowledge where they can decipher information and see if it is congruent with your thinking or it's not, and not just take things at face value. So anyway, I know time is almost up. I can talk about this, all day and all night. So Rebel, we have any questions? You have any questions? Let me know.
There was a question back when you were talking about testosterone. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
Oh, no, it was the T3. When it splits to the T positive and the T, I don't want to say positive or negative, but the good one and the bad one, what happens to all the bad one?
Oh, what it does, the bad ones, it blocks the receptor so that even the thyroid that you have floating around that did not get converted, it has nowhere to land. So it slows down your metabolism. That's why you gain weight. Even when you go on a fast, that's what happens. You go in survival mode. You start making reverse T3. You slow down your metabolism. That's why a lot of times you don't lose weight even though you go on a fast, because your body turns on the stress signal and says, we've got a problem. There's no food coming in. There's no energy coming in. So let's start storing away energy so it stores fat. Fat is just stored energy. Okay, so when energy's going out and you're not using it, your body stores it. So that's the problem with always being in the stress, in the stress mode, is that your body is preparing to run a fight. It's not doing it. It said, okay, we'll just store it away because it seems like sooner or later this person's going to run a fight, and it's 5 years later and you've gained 20 pounds, and it all comes from stress. So I know it's almost time to go. So hopefully this resonates with you. I look at this again, because this is important. If we can fix that upstream problem, you'd be surprised at how many things get better. All right. See you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.